Hello, Toolboxers. Thanks for joining us again. We're with one of our oldest friends of the podcast, James Pittman, co-founder of Docketwise. I just saw him last week in Chicago. It was like great. James, is that the first time we saw each other in person? We must have seen each other at previous conferences or something.
My recollection is we met once before at a conference, but I can't recall which one it would have been.
It gets crazy. I mean, especially when you have a booth like you did there, and you just have people come in. It's like a train of people. You kind of lose it. But this time it really stuck. We sit and talked and got to know each other in person much better. So, James, thanks for coming on the show. We got a lot to talk about. Why don't you do a quick introduction, I guess, if it's in particular, but I kind of wanted to just get your thoughts on how the conference went for you to start.
Yeah, so I'm James Pittman, and I'm co-founder of Docketwise, and I have a background as an immigration lawyer. I'm also now the host of the Immigration Uncovered podcast, which is produced by Docketwise. Yeah, so as far as the ALA conference, very successful all around. What was great was we're at a milestone, and we've reached a point where the bulk of the people coming over to us are already customers, and so we get a we're that well known. I mean, we've achieved that degree of success. Thank God for that. And so it's a great opportunity to get a lot of face time and hear feedback from our users, and just discuss and keep the excitement going, keep the community vibe going. Tell people what our plans are, hear their feedback and their thoughts. And really anything they want to communicate to us that they haven't communicated to us through our regular customer service channels.
Well, I want to get into a couple of the new stuff. It's kind of a off question, but this is the first time I went to Chicago, and I couldn't believe how beautiful Chicago was. I was like, oh, like this is completely different than I thought. And it's so great. What was your favorite part about just Chicago as a person and stuff?
Well, I didn't get out of the conference area really this time. I have been to Chicago a few times before. I remember way back when I was looking at law schools, I was looking at a couple of them in Chicago. So I made a trip out there. I actually took the Amtrak from Philadelphia to Chicago. It's quite a long ride, but it's enjoyable. But I didn't really get out of the conference area. But I will mention another highlight of the whole was our vendor track session. So this year, for the first time, Docketwise had a vendor track session, which was on the Friday, June 14th. And we talked about tech trends and overall tech trends in the legal industry and how those filter down and specifically affect immigration law, examples of how the trends are being actualized in the immigration space. And then we talked about our AI strategy, AffiniPay as a whole. I'm talking about Docketwise as an AffiniPay solution, but our overall AI strategy. Yeah, very successful. It's the first time ALA offered that vendor track. We're looking forward to, continuing to do that. I also, as you saw, I got a chance to go around the exhibit floor and network with the other exhibitors and do some sort of live broadcasting.
We did a story.
We did we did a little video clip, the two of us. Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me because I'm involved in the space, but like my favorite part of the conference was the vendor booth this year. It just was like, I don't know, they designed it differently. What it was, I just kept walking around talking, and that was one of the best parts of it. Surprisingly, the marketplace, if you will. Do you notice was there anything particular that was different, or was it just me, or I don't know?
I mean, I think that just the whole space is so large there that it creates you feel like there's a lot of room to move around. It didn't feel crowded. At no point did the conference this year feel crowded, even though there were thousands of people there. McCormick Place is just so huge that a few thousand people seems like a little sprinkle there.
Yeah, you're like ants in there,
right? But yeah, I that's the only thing I can think of was the physical layout was that big. But but I'm looking forward to other and vendor track sessions in the future. And but I also agree that was a highlight, was getting around, meeting the other people. And we look for partners. I mean, we talk to potential partners who have ideas for how they might partner, integrate with Docketwise. We speak to them during those rounds that we make.
Wonderful. It's popped in my head probably because I'm growing my firm. And so a lot of the vendors now before I wouldn't even understand what the use was for different things. So I'm like, oh, now I understand. I need to talk to this person because I could use it. Whereas before it was just like, a lot of my stuff is just the forms because it was so simple and basic. Now, like I appreciate like, oh, there's a reason why they have all these extra features. And speaking of features, you got some updates. Obviously there's the AI stuff, which we're going to probably end talking about that because it's just the future. But what are some recent updates Docketwise had that can help users?
The thing that we worked on in recent months was our e-filing capability, and this year we unveiled our H-1B e-filing. So USCIS made available for the first time, as people will know, the I-129 available for online filing,
Hmm.
which is really huge for people that do a lot of I-129s, do employment-based immigration, do a lot of H-1Bs. We were able to get the I-129 e-filing up and running within a very short period of time after USCIS made it public, within the 90-day filing window, um, after selection of the H-1B lottery winners. So that is live, and our ETA 9035 for the labor condition application filing, that e-filing is also live, which was this season was the first time we had that available. So, huge props to our software development team for getting those ready in record time. It's a ton of work, and they just do such an excellent job. We have such talented people who are able to get those two pieces in place. Now, with that going on, there wasn't enough time to get the H-1B lottery registration e-filing capability ready on
Yeah.
Docketwise for this year, but it will be available for next year.
Hmm.
So, the USCIS only makes that registration process open for a couple of weeks. So it's very compressed. But for next year, you'll be able to do your H-1B registrations right from Docketwise in a very streamlined way, and then immediately segue, for your chosen clients, immediately segue into your ETA e-filing, your I-129 e-filing.
Great. So Docker-wise, I remember years ago when the employment-based push came after you really settled on the family stuff. It seems like it's complete essentially. To the extent the government permits it, your employment-based side for processing cases is ready to go.
Yeah, well, it's the e-filing. It's the question is the e-filing has been one of our top priorities, our top priority really in terms of development. So
Hmm.
we had put out a lot of the general and family based immigration e-filing forms. So I-130, I-765, N-400, those were out.
Yeah.
And now that USCIS started making available the employment-based forms for e-filing, as part of our e-filing strategy, we have made those available. Separate from that and broader than that is our business immigration expansion, which is an ongoing process of really listening to our users, our users who do employment-based immigration, and listening to what features they're requesting, what on top of what Docketwise already offers are they requesting, and we're looking for ones that we can implement in a timely fashion. So it's our usual process for choosing features for development. Is how we do it is we take all the feedback and we track the feedback in terms of number of votes that it got from
Yeah.
customers. So only after it gets a certain critical threshold of votes do we really consider it for implementation. And we always naturally we're looking for ones that we can implement it, more easily and with more certainty of success in a short period of time. You don't, I mean, it's always, you don't want to like launch into a direction that, without, I mean, we're always looking for the quicker wins first.
Yeah.
That's how we track our feedback. And
What
then
what what's the best way for users? I mean, when you're in Docketwise, when you do the portal, there's a button that help you. Is that a way to
the
sub?
live chat, or you can communicate it to your customer success manager if you're having an onboarding session. But certainly the live chat tool, or just email us to our team at the address is team at docketwise.com with your feedback suggestions. And what happens is those are received by the customer success team. And then every morning there's a stand-up call in the company where they are relayed to the development team and they are put into our tracking boards and votes tabulated and it's considered for implementation when it gets enough votes.
Going back to my growing my company and like thinking about teams and stuff, it overwhelms me because it's just a lot of extra work. How has been the transition, with Affinity Pay and all that kind of, joining the bigger group? What is one or two of the biggest changes you felt in just? I mean, you already were a
Well,
company
things have to be,
employees, but
the strategies have to be synced. So AffiniPay is a big company with several solution brands that are in the legal software space. So we have MyCase, we have LawPay, we have CasePeer, we have Docketwise, and those brands are everything that they're doing should be aligned, obviously, with the strategies of the larger company and the marketing efforts of the larger company. So it's a
Yeah.
process of bringing all of that into alignment and having all of the parts working in the same direction, having all the
Yeah.
pieces go
You
toward a
guys,
larger
yeah,
goal.
more resources. That's one of the biggest things.
And
So
that's it. Yeah, I mean, in practical terms, what that means is that we have the resources of a larger company, which enables us to do everything bigger and better
yeah.
and faster. Yeah.
And one of my favorite things about having employees is sometimes there'd be something I'm like, "Oh, I got to spend 2 days on this," but now I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I just email someone else and it just gets done." And so that just like that's like a godsend having that. So I mean, speaking of new things to be done, the AI situation, there were a lot of booths just on AI kind of software. Everyone's getting into it. What is your perception of how AI is going to play a role in immigration, and what kind of things are you developing?
I mean, it's an explosion of effort, and we're in a boom of it now. I mean, 10 years or even five years from now, how many of these little startups, these AI focused startups, are going to survive? Well, that remains to be seen. That's every new technological development, and AI is actually a technological revolution. So it's a
Yeah,
very big development. There will undoubtedly be many, many, many players who start out, and as time goes by, they lose out to to competitors. I mean, that is just the nature of business. um, but in terms of immigration law, I mean, there are people who are creating end-to-end workflows through using AI to read data off of documents, to put the data into your cover letter, your brief,
yeah,
your business plan, all of that. There are others who are going in the legal research direction, where you're taking user inputs and you're synthesizing them with the statutes, the case law, the regulations, and the AI is helping to conduct the analysis, and then it's taking the product and putting that into templates. Whether it's again your brief, your cover letter. So the legal research aspect, the document summary, and the data extraction. Those are some of the big developments that I see a lot of these companies working on, and then also other things which are they're really you can already do very easily, which is, for example, drafting messages to clients, drafting your templated emails, your advertising copy,
yeah,
AI assisted transcripts to take notes of meetings,
yeah.
AI assisted chatbots to give. And I mean, you have the old style chatbot where it had set answers, like the user would ask it a question and it had like one of a set number of answers it could give. But now with the AI, the chatbots are getting more intelligent, and they actually can draw upon training materials to craft a more individualized answer to that person's specific inquiry.
Mhm. How much training does it require to just get that right though? Is it like I just got some software, I'm creating all these automations and stuff, but each automation is it's old school AI. You gotta have a response set for everything. So a lot of my time is based on like just like think about every situation that comes up, or every time someone emails us, I'm like, oh, in this situation, this is a response and saving these. But the AI, um, it probably needs that training, but it's gonna be far easier because it's more they'll just understand it eventually and write it out, especially writing out a better looking email than what I would write.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think if you're doing this, if one that's not extremely, I mean, if you're not expecting it to do anything extremely complicated, I mean, just be able to intelligently answer specific answers within a
Yeah.
universe of information that it has. I don't think it's all that complicated. Certainly you can build something like that. There's different tools out there, where, whether it's the Chat GPT and other tools where you can, train it, and then you can also build the chatbot.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the tools are out there, and I don't think the standard use case for immigration lawyers, if you're not trying to really be, extremely pioneering, I don't think the standard use case is that complicated.
Yeah, the pioneer is the thing. Like I imagine, like the biggest use we're gonna have on AI is still not even thought of how it's gonna be. It's still like being figured out as it goes.
Probably AI will think of it.
Yeah,
It'll
that's
tell us,
yeah. Sam
right?
Altman, the AI, the ChatGPT guy is like, well, we're gonna create the super intelligence, then ask it how to make money off
I
this. So,
think that's exactly right, but they're right about that. Ultimately, they're right about that. It's yeah, they're right. I mean, you can see that in some fields of science, for example, where they're using AI to do drug design, and it thinks of it thinks of pathways for creating molecules and doing drug design that the chemists, like pharmaceutical chemists, don't think of. Like they would not
Yeah.
think to do it that way, but they see the AI doing it, and then they can ask it, and they can get a whole bunch more suggestions. So that's actually what happens. That's where the intelligence comes from. It's going to see things that we can't see. We can
Yeah.
give it materials to start learning, but it will see connections that we don't see.
Yeah. Oh, just a side note, one thing I heard is apparently in space you could do certain things with chemistry that's not possible on Earth. So they're starting to create. There's a new
Of
field,
course. Well,
getting space. It's like what?
yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
mean, I can't. I mean, that's getting a far field, but I mean, think of it. If you have no gravity, and the atmospheric, I mean, the atmospheric pressure is going to be radically different. So pressure is a physical force, is a physical
Yeah.
variable that plays an integral role, just like heat and other things in chemical reactions. So
Mhm.
if you've radically altered pressure, that's going to have all kinds of consequences on doing chemistry in space.
So this would be it's an amazing future. It sounds scary because there's a fear that's going to take away from the immigration lawyer's job. But I imagine all this is just going to be just you know cleaning up for your focus on where we bring
Yeah,
value.
I think they're just gonna be you're gonna be like the pilot, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be like a pilot in a self-flying plane, or largely self-flying plane. I mean, or self-driving car. I mean, you're still gonna be the pilot, but you're gonna be spending your brain power doing things that really require your brain power, your human understanding of the world, and your ability to put things in human terms.
Yeah.
But all of the mechanistic thinking and all of the mechanistic details of implementation and execution, you will be helped to a great degree by AI. By
Hmm.
the time AI is capable of doing it all, I mean, if we don't look, I don't want to, joke around too much, but if we don't destroy ourselves in the process, by the
Yeah.
time that happens, we will have moved on from the need to do a lot of this work.
It's gonna be like Star Trek where
Yeah.
people work passion instead of work. Because if that works where the AI could do it, essentially the whole economy is gonna be trash and a new thing's gonna come. It's just so imagine, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it
not just
reminds me of the
immigration laws,
book.
everything's going down. Yeah.
Fully automated luxury, space communism, or something like that was
Yeah.
the book. Yeah, there's a book with that title, but it basically talked about some of these fantasy scenarios.
Yeah, in the meantime, like we're really focused on again using like systems like Docketwise to do the work and pushing the team to always be like, well, we got to bring the human experience more then because that's where we come into play is interacting with clients, how well we respond, how fast we respond, how warm we are, how caring we are, how much time we spend, and it's that human interaction that we could bring as AI just at least for now can't bring. Where then using your systems to just do the behind the scenes work to streamline it, so we could just again bring the humanity out to the parts that the technology can't do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where we're going for the foreseeable future. That's where we're going. So yeah, so I mean, it is going to cause. I mean, let's not minimize. It's going to cause a lot of dislocation for a lot of people who are
Mhm.
doing things that can be fully automated. But I mean, speaking specifically for lawyers, the need for the human understanding of the legal system and people, it's going to be around for a very long time, for the foreseeable future. And I just think that we need more thinking, more thinking as to for the good of the society as a whole, for how to prepare people for the dislocation, for the people whose jobs actually could go away as a
Yeah.
result of the AI implementation. I think we should have as much policy as we can for how we're going to cope with that, and how people who are affected are going to cope with that.
Yeah, I mean, right now we do outsourcing for certain aspects, and these are jobs that used to be in the U.S. So, I mean, that's kind of the AI, essentially a human AI, someone's taking that job and stuff. So it's going to be interesting. How do you prep for that, even just psychologically, to know that, like, you know, is a different way of looking at what you do in life or being defined by your work as in America, especially you get defined your value in what your work is. And once that's not there anymore, what happens? Does it lead to massive drug abuse or does it lead to flourishing of talent and culture or something like that? We'll see. Hopefully it does lead to flourishing, but based on experience historically, people kind of lose touch with reality once they don't have something to tether them down. So it's going to be a fascinating time to live through.
It is. It is. It's a time of enormous change. We're facing enormous change technologically. We're facing enormous change in our specific society. In the physical climate, in the international, geopolitical arena, and the
Mhm.
world security situation. It's a time of tremendous upheaval. Really, none of us has any idea what the world will look like in
Yeah.
15, 20 years like that. We just have to, hold on tight and hope nothing terrible
Yeah.
happens, and and we'll see how it looks in the rearview mirror. But yeah, many changes all around in many sectors.
Yeah, as we're talking about this, it just popped in my head. In America, we have a more open system, so it does lead to some sort of better ability to adjust because of the openness of the communication, and that people could read the internet and learn stuff, maybe pull themselves out and do something. But a lot of these countries that are the economy is more controlled by the government, society is more controlled. Once these kind of technologies come out, they have to really throttle it, which gives them an economic disadvantage because their populations it's going to be more disruptive because they're more inflexible to be able to adjust to sudden rapid changes. So, I mean, when you think about like China, they're trying to spearhead this kind of stuff, but when you have a system that's so controlled right there, what's that going to do to?
Oh, no, well, I think they will be they will spearhead, and they will be. I mean, one of the spearheads. They will be one of the major players. It's just that it
Yeah,
gets harnessed in the service of the state. So China can be at the forefront of all kinds of technologies, and Chinese entrepreneurs can be at the forefront of these things. The difference is in China, what you are doing must still fit into the larger political narrative that the political
yeah,
leadership has in place. I mean, that you saw that with the tech sector. I mean, you can do lots of things, but you cannot go outside of the red lines, or and across the political leadership. But that's where
yeah.
you get the other side of them. But technologically, I think they are going to be leaders. They certainly have very, very capable people there. Yeah, but it's not going to be something that evolves as spontaneously. It evolves in a controlled system.
Yeah. But and I'm not sure how much more time you have, but there's a big issue in China, Japan, and even the US of birth rates being below
Mhm.
repopulation levels. And that becomes a labor issue. And now with the border situation, some argue that like, okay, we have like fresh blood coming in to make up for the loss of numbers, but AI could be a substitute because of the lower birth rates to kind of make up for that labor shortage potentially. So, and yeah,
I don't know. I mean, can AI do agricultural work? I mean, does AI do, landscaping? Does I mean a lot, some
yeah,
of the, the industries that you think of as where there's labor shortages, and people coming into the country are doing actual labor,
yeah.
are not things that I think AI is going to
The
be
real
doing
world.
soon.
Well,
Yeah,
Elon
I
Musk
mean, they're
has
not
his robot, but
harvesting
who knows?
citrus or
Yeah, who knows when that's going to happen? I was reading the biography on him, and when Elon Musk made the Tesla, the company, he went all out making robots do everything. Then you realize, oh, it's the robots can't do everything, so you have to like get rid of some machines and get people in there because it's not only the dexterity, it's just certain things that humans still are better at. But that's the brave new world we're getting into. Uh, yeah. So I do want to plug your podcast again as a fellow
uh-huh.
podcaster. What is the name of the podcast if people want
The
to see?
name of the podcast is Immigration Uncovered, and it is produced by Docketwise. And what makes us unique is that we are multifaceted podcast. So we cover uh, several areas. We cover practice management. We cover branding and marketing your immigration firm. We cover technology all the time, but
Mhm.
we also cover law and policy. So we do cover changes in the law. We cover what's going on in the immigration system. We cover policy issues. I have up and coming. I try to give voice to up and coming people in the immigration space. We just had, for example, just one example, we had Gil Guerra on there, who's an up and coming immigration policy analyst at the Niskanen Center. So that's just an example. So I am trying to give the floor to some of these fresh people coming in, but it's a very wide scope for a podcast, and I love it because I'm learning all of this from these leading people, and getting to stimulate my brain, asking them fascinating questions, and we're bringing very valuable information and content to our listeners at no cost. And yeah, and we'll never run out of ideas is
Yeah.
the other thing I like about having a broad scope.
Yeah, and I catch it on YouTube because I like watching the video, and I get the emails when a new one's up. So if people haven't registered already, get notifications. Is it just part of their? Because I get the emails. Is that part of my regular Docketwise like newsletter, or is there
Yes,
one that you
yeah,
just?
it is. If you subscribe to updates, sorry, from Docketwise, you will get notified about the podcast, and sometimes we include excerpts from the podcast in the newsletter that goes out.
Very cool. Thanks again, James, for coming on. It's Docketwise.com. And if people could do a test run, if they want to, if they're not already users, they could do a demo with y'all and get to know the software better.
Yeah, absolutely. You can certainly do a demo of Docketwise free trial. Do a demo and then get a free trial. Yeah, we have 3 tiers. There's something for, whatever stage you are in terms of development of your practice and whatever mix of immigration cases you're taking. Docketwise is the solution for you. So come and see us, come and visit us, do a demo, tune into the podcast, and I will speak to you next time, John. And I really appreciate the chance to update you.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Good to always talk with you. Hope we get one soon. And just the next update we do, we get some sort of more AI stuff to see how it all plays out. So it's really interesting to track how this all happens, these quarterly meetings. But thanks again. Stay on the line for a second. I end the recording, everybody. Docketwise.com. That's the place to go. Thanks so much.